Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Today I'm going to be talking about the 100 best albums from the 60s. Now, this is a long video and I've been working on it for a couple of months now. And if it has taught me one thing, it is that there is no decade like the 60s. So many developments, changes, to so many different genres and to pop music in general that I can't conclude anything else but the 60s were a magical decade, and I have the most deep respect for what happened. Also, listening to it is a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's kick off this top 100 with, at number 100, Tim Buckley with Goodbye and Hello. Tim Buckley is the father of Jeff Buckley, and I listened to Jeff Buckley before I started listening to Tim Buckley. But if you expect his son to style-wise be like his father, you're wrong. Tim Buckley is clearly a child of the 60s and of the hippie generation, where Jeff Buckley clearly is a child of the somber tone of the 90s. This record has happiness, but also hippie tones and some psychedelic side effects. Tim Buckley is a beautiful and unique voice in the world of folk music, and this truly unique man did help build the 60s. At number 100, Tim Buckley with Goodbye and Hello. At number 99, here's for some blues, some Chicago blues. Junior Wells with the Chicago Blues Band and with Buddy Guy doing Hoodoo Man Blues. I discovered this record early in 2025 and it really took me by surprise. The vibe that is going on here, the coolness, the dedication to playing the instrument, but this overall sense of smooth Chicago blues is stunning. Junior Wells owns it, and this is a rockin' record. Beautiful, rootsy sound, a masterpiece. Junior Wells with the Chicago Blues Band and Buddy Guy, Hoodoo Man Blues. 98. Also somebody I've been growing to appreciate more and more over the last year. Portrait in Jazz by the Bill Evans Trio. Thing is with Bill Evans, and this is one of his biggest efforts, the more I listen to his piano playing, the more I enjoy the fact that it has beauty, warm, a Sunday afternoon serenity, but also a challenging sound. And that is what makes this record so good. There are some gorgeous songs here, like What Is This Thing Called Love, Someday My Prince Will Come, Autumn Leaves, of course, I love Autumn Leaves. Gorgeous, beautiful record on Riverside. At number 98, Bill Evans, Portrait in Jazz. At number 97, another folk pop, or is it pop folk album? Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. Just listening to the opening track, you can hear the dynamic brilliance of these two voices. And that's the strange thing in the world of Simon and Garfunkel. Obviously, Paul Simon was the genius here, but Art Garfunkel's voice made Paul Simon's voice in combination so much more challenging, but also so much more smoother. There is a gentleness in his voice that is really good to these songs without it becoming sassy, or how do you say it, too sweet. I found this record, this particular first American pressing, in Amoeba, the original Amoeba in San Francisco about a year ago. And I've been listening to loads of versions, but listening to this original with a song like Scarborough Fair, I mean, that melody. Ooh. But Homeward Bound. I'm sitting in the railway station, got a ticket for my destination. The lyrics are so good. And the 59th Street Bridge song, also known as Feeling Groovy. The end here with a poem on the underground wolf, 7 o'clock news and Silent Night. Damn, this is quite something. At number 97, Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme. At number 96, in the 60s, this is one of the artists that could not be left out of this video. Elvis Presley from Elvis in Memphis. One of the rare occasions in which Elvis Presley went to the studio to record a coherent record. And he did the most astonishing job with this one. It feels like a coherent record. And it's got a lot of beautiful deep grooves, deep cuts. But also, this one has In the Ghetto. And there is a bombast here that is stronger or bigger than on his rock and roll records, but it's not yet Las Vegas Elvis. He is in love with his rock and roll and soul roots, and that makes this one of his most genuine records. One of Elvis' best records. At 96, from Elvis in Memphis. Going to number 95. Miles Davis with Sketches of Spain. Now, when I did my top 5 Miles Davis video, I didn't really enjoy this record that much. Honestly, I had a bad pressing, Dutch reissue from the 70s. Now, a couple of years ago, I found this, a first Canadian pressing in near mint condition with an American sleeve. And this mono sound, it is like nothing in the world. Miles Davis, together with Gil Evans, made something astonishingly avant-garde. A jazz record that does know how to get some Spanish influences there, but it doesn't feel like a spoof or a spin-off. Miles Davis reinvents jazz and makes such a beautiful, challenging record that on another level is really soothing and smooth and beautifully enjoyable. At number 95, Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain. At number 94, the first record by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. In the same week as Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, and obviously I'm going to be talking about Blonde on Blonde in this video later on, but in the same week as Blonde on Blonde, Frank Zappa released what both are debating is the first double studio album. Well, Frank Zappa did create something completely different from what Bob Dylan was after. This is avant-garde. This is challenging. Frank Zappa made a wild, dare I say, psychedelic record that does things so completely different from anything that has been made afterwards or before. I mean, this is just a unique moment in time. At number 94, The Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. At number 93, another psychedelic experiment, but now done by The Who, Sell Out. And this record by one of the greatest, biggest rock bands in the world, hard rock bands, dare I say, is fascinating because the concept is as follows. It's done as if you're listening to a pirate radio, with commercial breaks in between done by The Who. That's also what these pictures on the cover reference. Brands, sometimes fake brands, that they would be making commercials for. Now, in between those commercials, There are stunning songs like Armonia City in the Sky, Tattoo, I Can See for Miles. And honestly, those commercials, they make it the whole that it is. This is The Who having fun and making some great hard rock or psychedelic rock. At number 93, The Who, Sellout. At number 92, Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home. One of the major names of the 60s is obviously Bob Dylan. And when I was 14 years old, I found it hard to get into Bob Dylan. So a friend of mine who I met through a Queen online forum sent me a 3 CD box with 3 records of Dylan. And slowly but surely, starting with this one, I fell in love with Dylan. Opening with the Subterranean Homesick Blues. Beautiful song, Maggie's Farm, Love Minus Zero, No Limit, Bob Dylan's 153, Mr. Tambourine Man, Gates of Eden, It's Alright Mom, Only Bleeding, and perhaps my favorite, one of my favorite Dylan songs, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. And I immediately think of that scene in that documentary from D.A. Pennebaker in which he follows Dylan, and they're in a hotel room and Donovan plays a song on a guitar, and it's good, but it's not brilliant. Donovan is a great artist, but Dylan's in the room, and Dylan gets the guitar and does It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. It's sharp, fierce, and he leaves no stone untouched in what he has to say in that goodbye. Stunning. At number 92, Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home. Number 91. I was battling myself over which version of this record to put on here. It's the Rolling Stones' Aftermath. And on this channel I've spoken more about the UK version than the US version, and there are differences in the track list. So which version are you gonna choose? Well, today I'm choosing this one. Why? Because this one opens with Painted Black. I mean, a Rolling Stones record opening with Painted Black. The UK version doesn't open with Painted Black. I prefer the UK cover of the record, but Painted Black, it sounds so challenging, so amazing. And then you get into Stupid Girl, Lady Jane, and the Mad Thump. These are mid-60s Rolling Stones on fire. A mesmerizing, stunning record by the Stones at 91. Going to number 90. One of the records, I think, by the Beatles that even by Beatles fans has been undervalued. The Magical Mystery Tour. And I don't fully understand what happened, why people never gave this the credit it deserves. As a matter of fact, while talking about it, I think that I should have put this higher up my list. Why? Well, take a look at this track list. Magical Mystery Tour opening track is good. Fool on the Hill is really good. I think that's a gorgeous song. Flying Blue Jay Way. A lot of people talk about those songs as if they are like failed experiments, but they're not. Your mother should know. Ooh, mother. That's a good melodic song. I Am the Walrus. Beautiful, gorgeous hit. John Lennon, Giving It All. Hello, Goodbye. That's a masterpiece ballad. Strawberry Fields Forever. Masterpiece. Penny Lane. Masterpiece. Baby You're a Rich Man. Masterpiece. All You Need Is Love. One of the most gorgeous love songs ever. Now, why did it never get the recognition? I think expectations were so high after Sgt. Pepper's, and after this one they went for the White Album, and this particular record did not get pressed very well in the 60s. I'm holding an original American pressing because the UK copy was an EP, so not counting that, not the full track list. And the American copy just doesn't sound so well. If you would like to experience this record the way I do, go try and find a German Hörzu pressing from the 70s. The cover looks awful, but it's one of the most beautiful sounding record you'll ever find. And it shows the true brilliance of the Magical Mystery Tour. One of the best albums from the 60s. And from the Beatles. So that's on number 90, the Magical Mystery Tour. 89, the Mamas and the Papas, If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears. The Mamas and the Papas is one of those bands that they never had a certain mystique like all of the names that I've been talking about before in this video. Actually, they are easygoing, friendly, these are hippies that could have been your parents, basically, emotionally. So when I started listening to this, I didn't expect much, and it took me by surprise. Opening with Monday, Monday, the most stunning harmonies, straight shooters, got power, got a feeling, so smooth, and the first 3 tracks are just already of a pristine beauty, a hippie friendliness and happiness, but never too easy. They challenge themselves with the harmonies, with the tempos, with the melodies. Go Where You Wanna Go is on here. California Dreaming. Ooh, Spanish Harlem. Oh, I'd love to put this on right after the video, but I'm sure that once I start talking about these records, I want to put them all on after this video because I'm just really excited with these titles. At number 88, time for some blues. Lightnin' Hopkins, Texas Bluesman. Well, for a lot of people, this may be one of the odd ones out because pretty often when websites or magazines like Rolling Stone or Enemy talk about the 60s, they forget that the 60s were the place for some gorgeous, stunning blues. And one of my favorite blues musicians is Lightnin' Hopkins. Whenever I see a record by his, I am dared and challenged to buy it because this man has his own unique timing, tempo, way of singing and talking and telling stories, and you just want to travel along with him. This record in particular, though he has many beautiful records in the 60s, Texas Bluesman. It's as if you are listening to a troubadour who has seen the world and who has kept his own cool and identity at the same time. At number 88, Lightnin' Hopkins, Texas Bluesman. At number 87, a record that I talked more specifically about in the top 25 progressive rock records that I did recently. You can find on my channel, but here it is, The Soft Machine at 87. Beautiful, challenging band, late 60s. There are psychedelic influences there. It's progressive, beautiful band, beautiful record at 87. At 85, 86 of course. 86. Gotta put Cream in there. Cream, Disraeli, Gears. One of their masterpieces, though I don't think it's their best album. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about another album straight after this one. What a surprise. Opening with Strange Brew, Sunshine of Your Love. So many good songs. This is for me the moment that they are leaving more of the blues sounds behind and the psychedelic gets in there. It's good, it's vibrant, and it's one of the best moments of Eric Clapton's career. At number 86, Cream, Disraeli, Gears. And at 85, just as I said, Fresh, Cream. Now this was the record that made me realize that Cream was out there and was a beautiful challenge, and that this kind of blues rock at the time of its release must have made a stunning impact on so many teenagers. This is, in my opinion, their most authentic one, most challenging, with a beautiful version of Skip James's I'm So Glad, which Skip James, of course, said that his version was better. And yeah, okay, Skip James's version of that song is better. But they also play another beautiful blues classic, Spoonful, written by Willie Dixon, but mostly known by the Howlin Wolf version. The entirety of this sound, especially on mono, and I found this mono pressing in London 4 years ago. It sounds full, warm, and it rocks. Fresh Cream at number 85. Going to 84. Dr. John, The Night Tripper with Gris. Well, what about Dr. John? Dr. John has this New Orleans vibe going on. This influenced by blues, New Orleans sounds, and voodoo spirits that is beyond anything I have known. Opening with the beautiful, smooth sounds of Gris Gumbo Ya, and how he is vibing, and the cool in his voice. It is just a pleasure to behold this man. And the entirety of this record, it just goes on and on. Great songs. At number 84, Dr. John with Gris. Going towards number 83, Jethro Tull, Stand Up. I want to open it because I find this so funny. This is in the Analog Productions pressing, but I'm not sure if the original UK has it as well. A pop-up of Jethro Tull. Well, it pleases the child in me. And the adult in me gets pleased by these beautiful songs. Like Nothing Is Easy, Reasons for Waiting. That song alone is worthwhile, this record. Jethro Tull made quite the impact with this gorgeous record. At number 83. At 82, it's time for some jazz again. Dexter Gordon, Go. This was one of the records that I bought very early on when I got interested in Blue Note as a label specifically. And Blue Note is one of those jazz labels that shines in the 60s. These are the golden years of jazz and of Blue Note. Thing is, people were wondering, why do Blue Note's records sound so much better? Well, they have Rudy van Gelder as a mastering engineer and doing the recording of the songs. Also, musicians were hired with more studio time, and they got better meals at Blue Note. So if you take care for people, well, you get better sounds, you get better records. At number 82, Dexter Gordon, Go. At number 81, another jazz record, but it's also kind of a soul record. Nina Simone, I Put a Spell on You. One of the best track lists of Nina Simone ever. Perhaps her best track list? I find it hard to say. But just song-wise, I mean, opening with I Put a Spell on You, which she plays with fire and fury and speed. You got the Me Quitte Pas, the Jacques Brel song, and she knows how to deliver that. That's one of the most difficult songs for a vocalist play-wise. How do you do those emotions? What else? Feeling Good. Need I say more? Feeling Good. And for me, Nina Simone's version of Feeling Good is the ultimate version of the song. At number 81, Nina Simone, I Put a Spell on You. At number 80, John Coltrane, My Favorite Things. Listening to this digitally, I never really cared for it. Then I got this record, and there's a beautiful 45 RPM by Analog Productions done a year or two ago. And then these 4 songs, because we're talking about just 4 songs, they took my heart. Opening with the title track, My Favorite Things, a 13-minute version of da 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 dum dum da dum da dum da dum ba da 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 da. After that, Every Time We Say Goodbye, a Cole Porter song. And Summertime, George Gershwin. Another George and Ira Gershwin song, but not for me. But that's Summertime. Not the only time I'm going to be talking about that song Summertime in this video, by the way. So, can you imagine which album with Summertime in which version is on the list? Well, you'll find that later on, if you keep watching, of course. At number 80, John Coltrane, My Favorite Things. At 79, Stan Getz and Joao Gilberto. Getz and Gilberto. I must have mispronounced that. This record is one of the most important in Brazilian jazz, and perhaps you could even say in South American music, though it's not my expertise, but this record is iconic. With the beautiful first track, The Girl from Ipanema, and the lightheartedness. Listening to that, I imagine myself drinking cocktails at a hotel, watching over the sea, everything being calm and lighthearted and enjoyable. Well, a song can do something like that, thanks to Getz and Gilberto. At number 79. At number 78, some country rock. The Flying Burrito Brothers with Gilded Palace of Sin. Now, why is this video in the top 100? I think seldom has an artist had so many influence like Graham Parsons had. He would influence the Byrds, change their sound, change an entire record. He was in the room when the Rolling Stones wrote Wild Horses, and he was a very important influence on Keith Richards and finding the vibe in the Rolling Stones. This record for country rock is an essential. It built bridges with beautiful songs like Sin City and Dark End of the Street, but in its entirety, this is magic. At number 78, the Flying Burrito Brothers with The Gilded Palace of Sin. At 77, Tina Brooks, True Blue. I was in Nice, and I'd been looking for the Paris of the city in France. And I'd been looking for this record for a couple of years. It was tough to find in the Netherlands. And I walked into a record store in Nice, and this man was playing this beautiful master pressing by Bernie Grundman for me. And not only do we have Tina Brooks on this record, we have Freddie Hubbard, Sam Jones, and Art Taylor. And this bunch of artists, again on the Blue Note label, made an astonishing sounding work of jazz art. At 77, Tina Brooks, True Blue. At number 76, is it soul or is it blues? A couple of weeks ago I made a video with the best soul records, and there was some discussion. I got some emails, people thinking that this should be blues, and I think it's both. Etta James, At Last, recorded for the Jazz Records label. Recorded with a band pretty dry, and then they had an orchestra, and it worked even better as a whole. Opening with Anything to Say You're Mine. Side 2 has I Just Want to Make Love to You. Stunning classic. The title track, At Last. Great song after great song with a voice. Etta James' voice. There is nothing like her voice on this recording. At number 76, Etta James, At Last. At number 75, Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign. The moment the moment blues or Chicago blues almost becomes rock. Albert King is such a virtuoso on the guitar that you just want to lay back and let his guitar playing take you anywhere. Opening with the title track, Born Under a Bad Sign, which is just the smoothest, rocking, beautiful piece of music. And so many more great songs. Albert King, a lot of people think, is this a brother of B.B. King? And no, the name King was given to many blues artists. And Albert King is definitely a king to compete with B.B. King. At number 75, Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign. Time for 74. Isaac Hayes, Hot Buttered Soul. And somehow I've always associated this record with the 70s. So while making the list and getting these records out of the shelves, I thought, did I really put this in? Because it sounds so 70s soul to me. But this was actually released in 1969 and making an important blueprint for the sound and the vibe and the feel of soul yet to come. Isaac Hayes, what a beautiful, true genius to the world of soul. At number 74. At number 73, a beautiful collaboration between Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. With this record, Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. Now, I'd like to talk about some songs in particular, because the tracklist is on the back of this beautiful acoustic sound series release. It's not on the back, it's in the gatefold. This is a version of In a Sentimental Mood. Again, the entirety of the record is here because this collaboration and the sound and these two, they create something. I mean, Coltrane is one of the masters of jazz, and Duke Ellington, I'd say could you say Duke Ellington is the godfather of jazz? I mean, I'm gonna say that. But when they worked together at this moment in time, they did something so astonishing. Their version of In a Sentimental Mood, it defies a highlight in the world of jazz. Done on the Impulse label, so it's not all Blue Note in this video. At number 73, going to number 72, the legendary Son House, father of folk blues. Now, Son House is one of those blues legends that was recording and playing in the 20s, and then during the Great Depression they didn't make blues music anymore or didn't record singles, and a lot of these legends actually put the guitar in the corner, and for decades people hadn't heard from them. So during the revival in the late 50s and 60s, they found Son House again, and Son House had been drinking. He had been drinking and not been practicing. So he started practicing for these recordings again, and they were done in such a beautiful, intimate, stunning quality that you get to the core of a challenged man or a man hunted by demons, and he gives everything. It's all about rhythm and soul and vibe and the most unique sound. There is a technical element to his playing that is just stunning. And if you put on this record, it's as if you're time traveling to the 60s and you end up on a front porch and you get the stories from the first hand of the blues. Son House, father of folk blues. At 72. At 71, Andrew Hill, Point of Departure. Well, what do you get when Andrew Hill works together with Joe Henderson, Kenny Dorham, and Eric Dolphy? One of the highlights in the Blue Note catalog. At number 71, Andrew Hill, Point of Departure. At number 70, I found this second pressing, mono pressing of this record for $7 in Los Angeles 2 months ago. Well, I call that a bargain, especially since some of my favorite jazz songs and performances are on this record. Again, with a gatefold, and you have to open it to see the track list. Where Flamingos Fly. That track could be a Bernard Herrmann composition for a Martin Scorsese horror film. It has that haunting capacity, and it builds in the most astonishing way. I want to say that's also something that could have been for Hitchcock. Again, the Bernard Herrmann reference there. But by just referencing these artists, I'm not giving the credit that Gil Evans and his orchestra deserve. This is, in its entirety, genuine beauty, challenging, given everything. At number 70, the Gil Evans Orchestra, Out of the Cool. At 69, it is time for Big Mama Thornton, the Queen at Monterey. Now, if you want to understand blues rock in the late 60s and the 70s, if you want to understand where somebody like Janis Joplin was coming from or who she wanted to be like, you gotta listen to this record. Big Mama Thornton, the Queen at Monterey. You've got songs like Bumblebee here that are filled with a pride and a charisma and a performance that knows no recognition. Big Mama Thornton, a big, heavy, full-powered lady, and I mean, her voice sounds the way she looks on this picture. It's everything you imagine and more. Dynamic, fire, shouting into the microphone. She could be eating the microphone. She could be eating the audience. And if you listen, you want to be taken away by her. She grabs you. It's wild, rough, and then delicate and smooth and emotional. She has so much. Accompanied with a band featuring Otis Redding, one of the creme de la creme of blues musicians. And it's so powerful. This is one of the true, beautiful, unique records out there. At number 69, Big Mama Thornton, the Queen at Monterey. At number 68, it was about time I mentioned the Kinks, wasn't it? Something Else by the Kinks. This was for a very long time my favorite Kinks album because it contains the first song that introduced me to the Kinks, Death of a Clown. My father always said, when I die, you should play Death of a Clown. Well, my father is alive, so I don't have the emotional impact of it being played at his funeral. But I think I will. And those kinds of stories and the fact that somebody close to you identifies with a song like that gives a song more depth. Although, and honestly, Death of a Clown already has depth. My makeup is dry as it cracks down my chin. I'm drowning my sorrow in whiskey and gin. These guys could write songs, and it's not just Death of a Clown. Harry Reg, I love Harry Reg. Tin Soldier Man, Lazy Old Sun, Afternoon Tea. Ending this record with Waterloo Sunset's Fine. So truly, genuinely English. So typical British, but daring. There is a daring quality. They have I wouldn't say a hard rock identity, but they are so truly unique and not trying to conform to the British norm, but they embrace it. And that is quite something. At number 68, the Kinks, Something Else. At number 67, Hank Mobley with Art Blakey, Wynton Kelly and Paul Chambers, Soul Station for Blue Note. Again, one of those stunning Blue Note records. And I mean, any combination that has Art Blakey, dare I say, the best jazz drummer in the world, and Paul Chambers, dare I say, the best, perhaps Charles Mingus. They play such different styles, so it's hard to let them compete. Paul Chambers is one of the ultimate best ones, and when they play together, you get something for tenor sax that knows no boundaries, and Hank Mobley takes no boundaries. Soul Station at number 67. Number 66, the notorious Byrd Brothers by the Byrds. This, I think the Byrds were so on fire with this one. Going back, there are a lot of great songs here, but the writing and the performance of Going Back, there's a smoothness to that song. There's a dimension to that song. And I really like the fact that you can hear that the Byrds here are transitioning, changing from the more mid-60s pop rock, rock and roll rock, to something more psychedelic. And that change really did them well. It seems like in the late 60s they were constantly searching for their identity. And I think they have mostly found it on this one. This holds miracles. This holds mysticism. This is a beautiful record by the Byrds at 66. At number 65, I just mentioned Janis Joplin earlier, but here we have it, Big Brother and the Holding Company with the record Cheap Thrills, or Thrills. I try to pronounce it right. Taking a look at the track list here. I gotta take it out of its sleeve. Yeah. On 36 sound stereo. Side 1, this record opens with combination of the two, I Need a Man to Love. Then you get Summertime. And this jazz classic has never sounded as good as the way Big Brother and the Holding Company do it. It is not just the voice of Janis Joplin, and that voice is astonishing. It carries it. It fills it with emotion. There's a nostalgia there. There's a melancholia there, but there's also, I feel an anxiety in her voice, and that makes this version so different. But that guitar, that beautiful guitar, that really makes this the most authentic and stunning version. And from that song you go into Piece of My Heart. Well, ending off the record with Ball and Chain, a Big Mama Thornton song. Or at least, is it written by Big Mama Thornton? Yeah, it says, Big Mama Thornton. I know it from the Big Mama Thornton song. Janis Joplin paying ode and homage to the one that gave her, the one that inspired her. And Janis Joplin made that inspiration her own. And this is one of her finest records, one of her finest moments. Beautiful. At number 65, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Cheap Thrills. At number 64, Otis Redding, Otis Blue, also known as Otis Redding Sings Soul. And why it has two titles, I do not know. But thing is, that's not the biggest question. The biggest question is, how can one artist make a record with so many beautiful, fulfilling recordings? Because this opens with Old Man Trouble. Then you get Respect, which, okay, Otis Redding wrote this, and it has been done later, better, by Aretha Franklin, but it's that's quite something for a record. Then we go to his version of Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. That's nice. Then a Solomon Burke cover, Down in the Valley, also really nice. Then an original, I've Been Loving You Too Long. That to me is the ultimate Otis Redding song. I love the way he did that live at the Monterey Pop Festival. but the version on this record is also stunningly beautiful. And that's not just it. Then he does another Sam Cooke cover, Shake. He does another cover, My Girl. We got A Wonderful World, Rock Me Baby, the B.B. King song, Satisfaction, a Rolling Stones cover, and ending it off with You Don't Miss Your Water. Otis Redding was on fire. At 64, Otis Blue. Otis Redding sings the soul. At number 63. Now, this is one of the highlights of avant-garde. The United States of America with their self-titled record, United States of America. This record is very tough to pin down, but when you put it on, it will take you away. It will show you new sounds. And as a matter of fact, this record is pretty hard to find. And in the Netherlands, rarely people talk about it. But a couple of years before he passed away, vocalist of Doe Maar, Henny Vrienden. And if you do not know Doe Maar, it's a Dutch pop rock band from the 80s, but that's one of those bands, Dutch bands, that if you do not understand the language, you can still really enjoy the music. It's worthwhile. Doe Maar is really, really cool. And Henny Vrienden, he mentioned the United States of America to be one of the big influences for him. And now that's a band and an artist who changed the Dutch musical landscape time and time again, with pop, with soundtracks, with his solo work. So he's someone, at least for the Netherlands, to listen to. So please enjoy the United States of America. At 63. At 62. John Lee Hooker, It Serves You Right to Suffer. I did not know what hit me the first time a friend of mine brought this record along and what came out of those boxes. A guitar sounding like I'd never heard before, so close, so intimate, and the same thing was done to the voice. John Lee Hooker with songs like Shake It Baby, Country Boy, Sugar Mama, Money, and the title track It Serves You Right to Suffer made something so astonishing that even if you do not like the blues, this is the time to step aboard, to give it a try, because John Lee Hooker gives you an emotional experience. There is nothing alike. Beautiful, authentic, and of a sound quality that is mesmerizing. At number 62, John Lee Hooker, It Serves You Right to Suffer. At number 61, another moment for the mothers of inventions with We're Only in It for the Money. Frank Zappa going full parody, but he took those comical elements to a state and a place and in melodic structures that are way out there. I love the playfulness. I love the way he can build a song around a joke, but never make the song or the structure a joke. This record is just a gift that keeps on giving. Every time you spin it, you will notice different things. And Zappa, here on the back with the, how do you say that? Wig, let's call it a wig. I'm not sure if it's a wig. He had long hair. I don't think it's a wig, actually. He's just dressed up. Zappa is a true genius and a planet of music in his own regard. At number 61, the mothers of invention were only in it for the money. Number 60, the true inspiration for Otis Redding. Sam Cooke with the record Night Beat. Now, a friend of mine found this record at the record fair, the biggest record fair in the world, when it was still in Utrecht. Now it is in Den Bosch. And I was so jealous when he found this because I would have loved to buy this. I bought this later on from him. It's the first American pressing with Sam Cooke in a stunning, stunning shape. His voice is so smooth, and he does songs like Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, Little Red Rooster, Get Yourself Another Fool, Shake, Rattle and Roll, and the most astonishing sounding studio recording you're ever gonna find. This is at the heart of soul. At number 60, Sam Cooke, Night Beat. At number 59, Simon and Garfunkel with Bookends. Bookends shows another level in the way that Simon and Garfunkel, and especially Paul Simon in the studio, was trying to find the perfect sound and getting better and better and better at it. Opening with the Bookends theme, then Save the Life of My Child. Song 3, America. And America is one of those key moments for me that shows a way of developing chords and lyrics and developing a story that paints such a beautiful beautiful story. It's almost as if you can picture the old photographs that show the main characters, and it shows their hopes and their desires. It's a very small song, a little bit like Homeward Bound, that gives an insight into a moment in time, the hopes and desires of someone traveling, and in this case the hopes and desires of going to America and hoping that you'll find your right place there. Old Friends is stunning. Mrs. Robinson, need I say anything about Mrs. Robinson? Nah, everything has been said. A Hazy Shade of Winter. The entirety of this record. Pure, smooth, perfection sounding beauty. I know that was not a really good sentence, but you know what I want to say. At 58, Bob Dylan, The Freewheeling. The famous second record by Bob Dylan. And although I really love his first record as well, this is the one that paints the picture that you actually see in the movie that starred Timothée Chalamet earlier this year. But that movie did not make the impact on me that this record does and did. Opening with Blowing in the Wind, the big hit. And only for that song, this record could have been in the video. But after he goes to Girl from the North Country, which I think is a beautiful and fine intimate song of his, then Masters of War, which was written and sung with a ferociousness by Dylan as a protest song that is out there. That is so good. Down the Highway, Bob Dylan's Blues, it's good. A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, another Dylan classic. Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. Oxford Town, Karina, and the final song, I Shall Be Free. This was an explosion. This changed the folk world. And Dylan, well, the beginning of his prime, because he had many primes, but this moment in time defined that New York, Greenwich Village scene and the folk scene and what people were listening to worldwide. A stunning moment for Dylan. At number 58. At number 57, the Beatles, Rubber Soul. I mean, opening with Drive My Car. Then you get Norwegian Wood, and I think that's one of the songs in which you really hear that the Beatles are developing. They are changing. They're becoming a different band there. You Won't See Me. I love that. Nowhere Man. Think for yourself, 'cause I won't be there with you. The Word, and Michelle, which I find one of the loveliest, sweetest ballads out there. And then side 2, another 7 songs, another 7 stunning songs. What Goes On, Girl. I like Girl. I think the lyrics here of Girl, they are daring, they are dark. I think Lennon was showing more and more in 1965 that he dared to shine a light on moments or places of his own soul and of the souls of the characters that he's singing about that are not easy to talk about. Girl is dark. She was told when she was young that pain would lead to pleasure. Did she understand it when they said that a man must earn his back to earn his day of leisure? In my life, wait if I needed someone and run for your life. Beatles growing into something new, and just as a whole, this record always gives me pleasure. I enjoy listening it a lot. The Beatles, Rubber Soul at 57. At 56, Muddy Waters, folk singer. This was one of the first steps for me in the world of blues. I was staying at a friend's place and we were listening to records and having some beers, and I slept on the couch. And he lives in Haarlem in the Netherlands, not Haarlem in New York. But he overlooks the big epic church Haarlem has. And while I was waking up and the sun was coming in through the windows, and the after effects of the alcohol were hammering on my head, I put this one on. And then the smooth sound of Muddy Waters guitar, that soulful playing, that gentle, soft, smoothing blues. This is not energetic, angry blues like Big Mama Thornton that I also love. This is Sunday morning, finding your life in peace blues. And what a stunning record it is. At number 56, Muddy Waters, folk singer. 55, The Band, with their self-titled record, The Band. Opening with Across the Great Divide. Robbie Robertson wrote a stunning Americana song that rocks. It's got so many layers in music and vocals. And this record is just a gift that keeps on giving. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. Wow. Somebody at the neighbors is putting something in the wall. I hope you don't mind. I hope my microphone is a lot stronger than that sound. But I will continue. I'm at 57 minutes, so I will continue. Up on Crickle Creek. So many great songs. That's just side 1. This is the jaw-dropping record by the band. I love songs from Big Pink as well, but this has so much beauty. It's just astonishing. At number 55, The Band. At number 54, Creedence Clearwater Revival with their record Willie and the Poor Boys. Now, John Fogerty is this truly gifted musician that comes from San Francisco. Sounds like he comes from the deep sound, and he does swamp rock. They do swamp rock. And I do not understand how, but in the late 60s he had this notebook with songs that were just incredible. Structure, melodies, and lyrics, one after another. So many CCR albums that, if the competition was not this big, would have made this video. But this record, it opens with Down on the Corner. The soaring, raw voice of Fogerty, and he is convincing. Though, I mean, I think in a certain way it's an act, but it is convincing. I truly go aboard here. Cotton Fields, Feelin' Blue, and then side 2 has Fortunate Son, which I think is one of the best compositions of the 60s. Some folks are born silver spoon in hand. There's so much fury and anger. One of the most amazing protest songs out there. Astonishing. And if that wasn't enough, the record ends up with Effigy. Take me away, John Fogerty, because this is astonishing. At number 54, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Willie and the Poor Boys. We are moving towards number 53 and the second album by Nico. Second solo album by Nico that a lot of people may know from the Velvet Underground and Nico. This is Nico the Marble Index. And it is her second album, solo album, because her first album, which is also beautiful, was mostly a record company's effort with beautiful pop songs, really great production, something that almost made this video as well. But Nico herself, she hated it because she was too much of a beautiful flower as a vocalist and with the songs, and she wanted something darker. So she started to collaborate with her old pal from the Velvet Underground, John Cale, who produced this record. On the sleeve it says he didn't produce it, just that he made the arrangement. So here I stand correcting myself. And Nico was actually after finding a new sound for herself. So she got introduced to the harmonium. I hope I pronounced it right in English. The story is that Leonard Cohen either gave her or sold her that harmonium, and that in a relationship with Jim Morrison, she became more intrigued by a dark gothic way of writing. Now, the Marble Index is the result of that, and she has found a very own true identity and made some incredible, remarkable steps in the world of gothic rock that are beyond recognition. Frozen Warnings, Julius Caesar, Lawns of Dawns. When you put this on, you will hear a romantic darkness that is beyond anything. At number 53, Nico the Marble Index. I have to speed up my speed further because also the video is becoming too long. Well. Oliver Nelson, The Blues and the Abstract Truth. One of the most gorgeous jazz records out there. Challenging, stunning melodies. And Oliver Nelson here works together with Paul Chambers, Eric Dolphy, Bill Evans, Roy Haynes and Freddie Hubbard. What's left to say? The Blues and the Abstract Truth. Masterpiece. At 51, I just mentioned Jim Morrison. And here we have one of the highlights from The Doors for me. Strange Days. It's a weird record in a certain way, but it's also a record that has so many melodies and lyrics that invite you in, that you just want to keep listening. And sometimes I forget this is from the first or the second Doors album because they have such a vibe alike. Title track is awesome. Love Me Two Times is incredible. Moonlight Drive is supposedly the first lyrics that Jim Morrison ever wrote, and the poetic quality of that is, it'll take you back. And after Moonlight Drive, you immediately get another banger of the Doors. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange. Now I'm gonna sing it in its entirety. I shouldn't do that. Ending off when the music's over. What an epic. At number 51, The Doors, Strange Days. Yes. At number 50, Eric Dolphy. I mentioned Eric Dolphy earlier in this video. Freddie Hubbard also joins in. Bobby Hutcherson joins in. And you get Out to Lunch. Avant-garde jazz. It took me some listens to get into it. And then when I found this, I believe, second US pressing, mastered by Rudy Van Gelder, I was all aboard. the Eric Dolphy Train. Now, diving deeper into the top 50, I'll see if I have some more space for the records that I'm going to put aside. I'm also going to open another drink. Finished my tea. Here we go. Number 49. This was, according to my Spotify year view, the record I listened to the most in 2025. Mississippi John Hurt, Today. Now, Mississippi John Hurt. I've earlier talked in this video about Son House and him being one of those blues musicians that started in the 20s and then drinking, and in the 60s he was revitalized. Mississippi John Hurt has a likewise story in that for decades he didn't play, but he was more alert, fresher, and when he picked up the guitar, his muscle memory in the 60s, because he was also rediscovered, his muscle memory was so astonishing, and his vocal style was always more about a whispering tone, so his voice was better preserved, that you straight on got the most beautiful performances out of him. And his revival is mesmerizing. You got songs like Candyman and Coffee Blues, and he just plays it in the studio in total control. The most delicate, impressive guitar parts, beautiful vocals, and he has such a deep understanding of the songs. I did a top 5 video on Mississippi John Hurt earlier this year. Check out on my channel because I want to spread the love for this master of the blues. He made so many stunning recordings. And this one today is one of those at 49. Yeah, how am I gonna put this? I've got loads of records now all around the floor. At number 48. Yeah, here we've got some psychedelic hippie rock with Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow. Yeah, this is one of those records I've been talking about a lot more often on this channel because it returns in lists and videos. Psychedelic rock, hippie rock. It's at the heart and the core of the late 60s San Francisco scene, with songs like Embryonic Journey, which I really like, White Rabbit, and Somebody to Love. But in its entirety, this record keeps giving. At number 48, Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow. At number 47, Lee Morgan, The Sidewinder. Lee Morgan collaborates here with Joe Henderson, Barry Harris, Bob Crenshaw, and Billy Higgins. And this was a record that became an unexpected hit for Blue Note. It's been repressed a lot in the 60s, and Blue Note, a record that was mostly focusing on getting the best out of jazz musicians, every now and then when they had a hit, it really worked well for them. But this was not a hit that was focused on getting the artist to make a big banging butt-chat record. No, this came out of gut feeling and made Lee Morgan a star in the world of jazz. At number 47, Lee Morgan, The Sidewinder. At number 46, The Kinks, Arthur, or The Decline and Fall of the British Empire. Well, I just flew to London earlier, and anytime when I'm in, earlier this week, and whenever I am in London, I just put The Kinks on because they are quintessential British. Here you get an opening track, Victoria. Love that one. Side 2 as Shangri-La, Mr. Churchill Says. And in its entirety, this is a concept album. And the Kinks kept developing, changing. Their sound became more delicate. And this is a beautiful, beautiful record. At number 46, The Kings, Arthur and the Decline of the British Empire. At number 45, Sly and the Family Stone with the record Stand. Now, Stand is a funk album that has this vibrant energy. Sly Stone is a performer who owns the audience. His voice takes over. There is cheerfulness, but he's also very, very socially aware. And from a perspective of optimism, or at least at this point, he's talking about issues. The opening track, Stand, is a powerful anthem. And don't call me, I can't say it. I can't say the word. Sorry. Don't call me N-word, Whitey. I Want to Take You Higher. First 3 songs there. It's a moment in time. It has so much to say. Yet it's not a talkative record. It has a lot to say, and it also wants to make you dance. And you know what? Whenever I put this on, it makes me want to dance. At number 45, Sly and the Family Stone, Stand. At number 44, one of my favorite jazz artists, Charles Mingus. And Charles Mingus made a record called Mingus. And on the back it says, Mingus is unique, he jolts. Mingus is ingenious. Listen now to Mingus. What I found mostly interesting in this record is that it shows Charles Mingus in the process with his band, in which somehow he just raises the energy, the dynamics, you can almost hear the band sweat, and there is a lot of side noise going on. It's a very good recording. The microphones are brilliantly placed, but you can hear the breathing. You can hear it takes energy. You can hear that Charles Mingus is demanding everything. And in that regard, energy-wise, to me, this is jazz that mostly sounds like metal. And in the sense that it's complicated, it's driving, it's an energetic force. And Charles Mingus puts it out everywhere. At number 44, Charles Mingus. Mingus. At number 43, finally again some Rolling Stones with Beggars Banquet. Whenever I pick up this record, the first thing that comes to my mind is the One by One documentary, also released under the title Sympathy for the Devil, of Jean-Luc Godard, in which he just spends days in the studio with dolly tracks, filming the Rolling Stones record the opening track of this record, Sympathy for the Devil. And it shows an image of the time, because he films something, he films more than just that, but it is an observational moment in which you see the development of one of the most stunning hit singles of all time. I truly think Sympathy for the Devil is highest level pop songs. It is in the rhythm. It is in Mick Jagger trying out a different perspective, a literary approach to lyrics. And then Keith Richards playing guitar. And it's almost as if his playing is behind on the emotion. That solo, the that timing. There's something in the timing of Keith Richards that no other guitar player has. And it's not just a front-back record, it is. You Get No Expectations, Dear Doctor, Street Fighting Man on side 2, Soul of the Earth. Great, great songs. At number 43, the Rolling Stones' Beggars Banquet. I pronounce it wrong, don't I? Banquet? I had some comments when I was talking about this record in another video, but I just can't seem to get that one right. At number 42, Crosby, Stills and Nash with their self-titled first record, Crosby, Stills and Nash. And a opera of voices. These three voices together, and the way that they blend, and the way that they are one of the first super groups to really bring something new. The way they work together, the way these voices build, how they build layers, how their songwriting actually complements each other. It's not a battle for attention. Crosby, Stills and Nash, despite the band name just being the name of these superstar musicians, I mean, they were famous before they formed this band, it makes so much more sense. This collaboration makes more sense than the bands that made these guys famous. And it is beautiful. Opening with that one track, it's getting to the point where I'm no fun anymore. Love it. At number 42, Crosby, Stills and Nash with their self-titled album. At 41, The Pretty Things with S.F. Sorrow. And as you may see, I've got some writings on this cover. I was lucky enough that earlier this year, in London, I found a signed copy by the entire band. Well, signed by the entire band in 2002. It mentions a year, 2002. When they were playing in the 100 Club in London, they signed this copy for the owner. But I was lucky enough to find it and not pay that much money and hear one of the first rock operas out there, perhaps even the first rock opera. S.F. Sorrow tells a bizarre story, but is this unique, challenging run-on of melodies and structures. Brilliantly sung. Love it. At number 41, The Pretty Things, S.F. Sorrow. Going into the top 40 now with Love Forever Changes. Another hippie summer album. And just saying that is not saying enough about it. Story goes that this was the record that was all on the California billboards in that summer. There's a gentleness, a loving, gentle, hippie vibe going on, while it always has a strong drive and strong beat. Love Forever Changes. Yeah, I'm looking at so many beautiful songs, and I'm thinking right now, this should be the record I play after the video. I might do that. At 40, Love Forever Changes. At 39, Nina Simone, Wild is the Wind. First of all, I like the title track here. Although it's also been beautifully covered by David Bowie for his Station to Station album, and he made some chord changes there. Her beautiful, direct, unique performance here, it's quite something. The way she plays the piano and the way her voice balances that piano playing, and they fit together. But that's got so much more. 4 women, what more can I say? Black is the color of my true love's hair. Beautiful song. This is a very, very emotional Nina Simone album. At number 39, Wild is the Wind. It's time for... Yeah, actually, it is country. Country folk. Yeah. Townes Van Zandt at 38 with Our Mother the Mountain. If you have not listened to this record, pause the video, go to Spotify or YouTube, or you know what, just go online in order a reissue. Because the first time I listened to this, I knew about Townes Van Zandt, and I heard him play on his guitar by himself, and I already loved that. And the structure of his songs, the writing, the lyrics, the way he sings them, the way he delivers them, these are all unique. The way this is produced, however, it's also an epic. The orchestra here, Be Here to Love Me. Oh, and then Kathleen, you have a heart of stone if you do not cry somewhere during this record. My Proud Mountains, Our Mother the Mountain, Second Lover Song. Townes Van Zandt is one of the most brilliant songwriters to ever live, and he was operating from the most unexpected area. Whenever I listen to it, it really hits me. A master. At 38, Townes Van Zandt, Our Mother the Mountain. Now for something less gentile and smooth, at 37, The Stooges with The Stooges. Iggy Pop on Fire. And when Elektra signed The Stooges, they did not know how do we make a wild band live. I mean, there's this raw punk energy. How do you get that on a record? Well, they asked John Cale, who may be turning out the hero of this top 100 video, his involvement on so many records. He was the one who produced them and who captured this raw energy. Opening with 1969, then I Wanna Be Your Dog, a raw banger. Side 2, No Fun. I love the directness of the lyrics here. No fun, my babe, no fun. No fun to hang around with you. Iggy Pop and the Stooges, at one of their best moments. They have a lot of good moments, but this spiced up the 60s like nothing else. 37, The Stooges. At 36, Aretha Franklin, Lady Soul. Okay, opening with Chain of Fools. The end of side 1, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. What more can you ask? Aretha Franklin, one of the best, most stunning, full and warm sounding voices, grown within churches. I believe her father was a preacher, and her entire family, her sisters, they were also singing. And somehow her voice grew to be one of the biggest of the 60s. So here, at 36, Aretha Franklin, Lady Soul. At number 35, Neil Young with Crazy Horse. Everybody knows this is Nowhere. Neil Young was starting to catch a lot of fire late 60s. And it's not just out of luck. As a songwriter, I think he is among the top 5 of most prolific writers, with a period of the late 60s until the mid 70s that he just kept on writing and coming up with fresh new melodies, lyrics, sounds, and his collaboration here with Crazy Horse. What a way to rock up your folk. Opening with Cinnamon Girl. Track 2, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. End of side 1, you get Down by the River. Cowgirl in the Sand. There are so many tracks here that, in the world of Neil Young, or in the world of music, turned out to be deep cuts classics. What a record. At 35, Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. 34. I actually was listening to this record before I started this video. It took me 2 records, listening to 2 records to find all the records, to put them in the right order. So it's about an hour of pre-work just physically to do this video. And I enjoyed listening to this one so much. As a matter of fact, on 34, this is the songs of Leonard Cohen. I love it so much that a week ago I was babysitting a 10-month-old daughter of my best friend, and she couldn't sleep, so I started singing her songs of this record, Suzanne, So Long Marianne, and the rhythm and the space that Leonard Cohen has between sentences to really make them count so you can really take them in. They work very well while singing to a baby, like lullabies, though lyrically, I wouldn't say these are lullabies. Not to say they are discomforting, but Cohen has layers, and he has poetry, and he has things to keep your mind busy. Hey, that's no way to say goodbye. I think Suzanne, Solo Marianne, and Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye are three of the best folk songs out there. Yes. At number 34, Songs of Leonard Cohen. At number 33, Van Morrison, Astral Weeks. With Astral Weeks, Van Morrison made a record that I think he captured the sound of the autumn. And a lot of influences in his work, an element of jazz, folk, but UK folk or Irish folk, if you'd say. Somehow everything in a certain way fell together that it made something truly unique. Listening to this record is almost like a spiritual experience with a softer and gentler Van Morrison than, well, especially you would hear right now. Nevertheless, Van Morrison is an artist that keeps developing and searching for new sounds in unexpected places. 33, Van Morrison, Astral Weeks. At 32, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. The, dare I say, blues rock album. I'm not so sure. Some people call it a blues rock album. I'm not sure what to call it. I could even just call it a rock album. Folk, blues rock, folk. Any record that opens with Like a Rolling Stone should be considered for a video. That is a powerful opener, a change of pop music, a change of writing lyrics. It's so dynamic. There's a messiness that is somehow controlled, that is just overwhelming. And this record is more than just Like a Rolling Stone. It takes a lot to laugh, it takes a train to cry, from a Buick 6, and then Ballad of a Thin Man that I may even like even more than Like a Rolling Stone. Ending up with Desolation Row. This is one of the finest moments in the world of Bob Dylan. And this is a first Canadian pressing that still has the alternative version of from a Buick 60 or from Buick 6. And in stereo, most of these 60s Dylan records you want to try the mono, but this one, stereo, way to go. At number 32, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. At 31, another entry for the Kinks. The Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society, God Save Donald Duck, Vaudeville and Variety. We are the Desperate Dan Appreciation Society, God Save Strawberry Jam and all the different varieties, preserving the old ways from being abused, protecting the new ways for me and for you. What more can we do? I love this record at a moment where their big competitors, the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, were looking for rougher ways, were looking for ways out of the UK. The Kinks started to look inward, and they even made something that is melancholic. You notice it very much in a song like Picture Book, pictures of your mother taken by your father, Phenomenal Cat. There is this coziness, though they never become too comfortable. This is... the first time I listened to this, I just didn't connect, and then slowly but surely this record grew more and more and more, and Yeah, I want to put it aside. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to this one after the video. I'm changing my minds constantly, but this is gonna be the one I'm gonna listen to first. Okay, at number 30, Howlin Wolf with the Rockin' Chair album. In a certain way, basically a collection of singles, but they fit together so well, and they were the first time they were released, and I think sound-wise and historical-wise and blues-wise, this is one of the key moments in blues history. Howlin Wolf sounds raw, energetic. The way he holds his breath and tone and can make his voice vibrate until you don't know where he's going on a song like Spoonful is just stunning. I think that Spoonful is one of those records that is timeless within its sound, its delivery, and there is no way of ever improving that. And there are so many other great, stunning beginnings of rock here and of blues. Backdoor Man, Shake For Me, The Red Rooster. Man, I am in awe for this record, and I truly hope that Chess Records will do a reissue very soon in their new classic series. This epic blues. Oh yeah, and if you listen to this, the sound of the guitar on Spoonful, I think that was what Keith Richards was after when he was playing the solo in Sympathy for the Devil. At number 30, Howlin' Wolf, Rockin' Chair album. 29, some psychedelic rock and pioneers, may I say. Pink Floyd with The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Opening with the wild, crazy Astronomy Domine, getting into Lucifer Sam, and other songs like Interstellar Overdrive. Yeah, this is a Pink Floyd that once was. The way Pink Floyd started to sound later on, they had a different frontman and a different writer. So Pink Floyd basically changed so much that there was only one real psychedelic 60s Pink Floyd album, and that is Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And it's beautiful. Short songs, sharp, crazy, and driven by creativity and madness. At number 29, Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. At 28, an artist that was never really picked up by the public, but it has been covered by many other artists. He has been covered thousands and thousands of times by people like Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Willie Nelson, Tom Jones, Nick Cave. The list goes on and on and on. And you may not have heard his name. I'm talking about Mickey Newbury. And Mickey Newbury was a lonesome soul in Nashville. In the industry, he was seen as one of the big talents. In 1967 or 68, the record company RCA paid the highest amount they ever paid for two artists. The first name was Elvis Presley. The second name was Mickey Newbury, because he was already making a name for himself as a songwriter. Nevertheless, although the interest from within and from the country scene and within the scene of country writers, he is seen as the great one, he never found the right audience. Also, he was very much by himself. He didn't want to record in the typical Nashville studios, so he bought a garage just outside of Nashville and made his own studio there. A studio in which you could hear trains and rain coming at the on the roof. And he beautifully put that in this record. A record that seems to tell the story of America, of people traveling, of people longing for love. And the way he makes landscapes, both with other sounds than instruments, but also by the soothing sounds of these instruments and the way they sound. The quality of the sound is so stunning. I mean, the studio quality is so stunning. And then his voice, the most remarkable storyteller out there. Please behold one of the true gems of recorded artists in its entirety. One of the true gems of the 60s. If you haven't listened to him, go out and find this record. And trust me, you'll, end of the year, or if you're seeing this at any other time, it'll make your year. Mickey Newbury looks like rain. At number 28. At 27. I could be short about this one. Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin 2 is a masterpiece of hard rock. It punches, it drives, it's maddening. Opening with a whole lot of love. But what else you got? This is, by the way, the Bob Ludwig cut. I made a video about a very specific mastering job, which is astonishing. This is one of the best sounding records I have in my collection. You got Living, Loving, Made, Ramble On, Moby Dick, Bring It On Home. Whole lot of I just mentioned that. The Lemon Song. Thank You. I love Thank You. A powerhouse of hard rock. And one of those records that in the late 60s, I believe 1969, it changed what would become mainstream and rock. 27, Led Zeppelin 2. And 26, Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. Miles Davis again pushing the boundaries of jazz and making something that, I mean, side 1 is one song, side 2 is one song. First time I listened to this I was early into jazz, just trying out, just tipping the toes into the water of jazz. And I looked out across the skyline of Amsterdam. It was dark, I saw the lights. And then this warm, gorgeous sound just blew out of the speakers, and man, what a genius. At 26, Miles Davis, In a Silent Way. At 25, we're entering 25 territory here. The Jimi Hendrix Experience with Electric Lady Land. Now, to truly enjoy this record, I just had to lay down and imagine being with them in the studio. And if you listen to the original mixes, this is not the original mix, this is the reissue from 2015. But I chose this one because the title is more YouTube, the cover is more YouTube friendly. If you imagine laying down in the studio, and you can even hear people down in the studio laying down and listening to them perform these songs, it's this wild, frantic, but then again also chilled down, enjoyable session that is there for pure joy. It's one of the highlights of hippie culture, with songs like Voodoo Child and Voodoo Child Slight Return, All Along the Watchtower, House Burning Down. Awesome record. At 25, Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland. Now for the last 24, dragging records across the floor. Here we get them. At number 24, Captain Beefheart, Safe as Milk. This was when Captain Beefheart still had a blues rock band, and voice-wise he was very much inspired by Howlin Wolf. And I think this is such a great album because unlike other blues rock artists, he was not trying to make a blues album. He was trying to make new kinds of rock. And then you get songs like Abba Zaba, Zigzag Wanderer, Dropout Boogie, Sure Enough, and Yes I Do. Something truly wild, truly unique. At number 24, Captain Beefheart, Safe as Milk. At number 23, Aretha Franklin, I Never Loved a Man the Way That I Am Loving You. Second time I'm talking about Aretha Franklin in this video. Now here's Aretha Franklin claims the song Respect from Otis Redding. First track, Respect. and she leaves nothing nothing over from the original song. This is powerful. This shows her voice in the true beautiful capacities. And it's just the beginning of this album. Just the beginning of this album. I never loved a man the way that I love you. Soul Serenade. Don't let me lose this dream. Dr. Feelgood. And then ending it off with a change is gonna come. This sounds astonishing. At number 23, Aretha Franklin, I never loved a man the way that I'm loving you. At 22, Nina Simone sings the blues. This is perhaps this is Nina Simone's best album. I actually think so. Side 1, you get performances of her. A fragility in the voice. Nina Simone singing the blues and folk songs and a lot more. But there's something so vulnerable here. I want a little sugar in my bowl. Her version of The House of the Rising Sun. Blues from Mama. My man's gone now. That will break your heart. She's on top of it here. She is on top of it. At 22, Nina Simone sings the blues. At 21, the Beatles, Revolver. One of the first moments in which the Beatles decided to make the studio sound so much different. They started experimenting. A lot of things have been said about this record and the way it sounds, but if you just even look at the track list, opening with Taxman, strong banger here, Eleanor Rigby, those violins, I'm Only Sleeping, Here, There and Everywhere. I think that's one of the most beautiful Beatles songs. Yellow Submarine is oh, that's funny. Okay, private information, but for the 10-month-old daughter of the best friend of mine, I always sing Yellow Submarine. And when I sing Yellow Submarine, she falls asleep. Yet, if just Yellow Submarine doesn't do it, the second song I always sing is Here, There and Everywhere. And I wasn't aware that they were after each other on this record, so that's funny. Side 2, Good Day Sunshine, and Your Bird Can Sing. I love the melody here. Dr. Robert, Tomorrow Never Knows, Gotta Get You Into My Life. So many great songs here. Yeah, the entirety of Revolver. One of the big avant-garde masterpieces from the 60s. At number 21. At number 20, the self-titled record by The Velvet Underground. This shows us a Lou Reed who just was sober, who was kicking off, and by that a vulnerability opens up through his voice that knows no equal. Opening with Candy Says, which Lou Reed doesn't sing, but lyrically it's written, one of the finest writings of Lou Reed, tells a story that is still fresh and relevant today. Then we go to What Goes On, Some Kind of Love that is haunting, Pale Blue Eyes. Oh, so strong. And then Jesus, the song Jesus. And that's just side 1. Side 2, I'm Beginning to See the Light. Murder Mystery, After Hours. This is a British pressing, and Lou Reed corrected the original American mix and sent that one to the UK because the original mixer, he put his voice too low. Lou Reed wanted to make it sound intimate, so he was almost whispering into the microphone, to which the mixing man thought, oh, you know what, if you sing so soft, I'm gonna put you so soft. But it was Lou Reed's idea that you would raise it up so that you would get a more intimate sound. It's as if he's whispering, but you should raise the whisper. So, well, brilliant record. Songwriting. This is Lou Reed writing on a level that is definitely equal to Lennon-McCartney level. Definitely of the level of Bob Dylan and so on. One of the most remarkable poets and melody makers out there. At number 20, The Velvet Underground. At number 19, The Jimi Hendrix Experience. Are You Experienced? Opening with Purple Haze, then you get Manic Depression, Hey Joe, just one after another. Purple Haze, Manic Depression, Hey Joe. You look at side 2, The Wind Cries Mary, Fire, Foxy Lady, Are You Experienced? This is a psychedelic banger after psychedelic banger. Jimi Hendrix on fire. At number 19, I mean, it just gets wilder and crazier, because here at number 18, I have Charles Mingus, The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. This is a humongous step in the way jazz is structured, the way it sounds. Charles Mingus showed to be a beautiful, brilliant genius. I shouldn't put my hand upon his face. By sheer luck, I found an original pressing, and sound-wise, this brings you so close to that performance, that composition. Man, this will take you anywhere. If you're not a jazz fan, just give it a try. It may be a little bit daring, but it is unlike anything you have heard. At number 18, Charles Mingus, The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. At number 17, Bob Dylan, Blonde on Blonde. Again, people said he went to Nashville to do some a blues rock, but I actually think that this record is there's some blues there, but there's some folk there. There's also some pop there. I think some of his most open-hearted ballads are here. But I only noticed how open-hearted it is until I found this first UK mono. Dylan took a lot of effort into the mono mix, and in the mono mix he sounds intimate and full. In the stereo mix, which is now the dominated release, there is air in the room that makes his voice sound more nasal, and that nasality almost makes it sound as if he's ironical, but Dylan is not ironic here. He's beautiful, earnest, direct, and it sounds so good. There are moments of irony, but on the love songs, this is a man opening up his heart. It's gorgeous. Bob Dylan, Blonde on 17. At number 16, The Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. A lot has been said about this record, especially since the passing of Brian Wilson. But this is the work of a genius, a masterpiece in recording. Beautiful band here, the Wrecking Crew. Brian Wilson went in the studio and he came back with God Only Knows. God Only Knows. Paul McCartney says it's the best song ever written. Well, I'm not sure if he's right, but it's one of the best songs ever written. Masterpiece. Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. At 15, something truly bizarre, but I think it's worthwhile. Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, Trout Mask Replica. Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band went into the forest, into a little home, and they were tortured basically by Beefheart's madness. He wanted structures to fall together that wouldn't work. People having to play without a reference, so lines wouldn't intertwine well. Nevertheless, some magic is spread on these two discs, and you'll find something that, if you give it enough spins, will hit your heart and will make you love it like there is nothing else. Truly unique and one of the biggest steps forward in the world of avant-garde. At 15, Captain Beefheart, Trout Mask Replica. At number 14, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. One of the many masterpieces by John Coltrane, but it's mostly centered for me around this record. He became he got into a more spiritual mood, and the way he builds, the way vocals are used, the way his saxophone sounds so sharp and fierce and dominating, taking you on a musical journey. I love it. At number 14, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. At number 13, Led Zeppelin 1. I rarely hear records that have white vocalists that can do the blues right. Robert Plant does it on this one. What an opener for Led Zeppelin. Opener of Good Times, Bad Times, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. The sound of Jimmy Page's guitar. Plant's shrieking. Then You Shook Me, Dazed and Confused. Your Time Is Gonna Come, Communication Breakdown. Blues rock melding with hard rock, but this is hard blues rock. At number 13, Led Zeppelin 1. At number 12, The Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. I can't say it's a forgotten masterpiece because Time of the Season is an obvious hit, but the entirety of this record, with songs like A Rose for Emily, Changes, I Want Her, She Wants Me, Care of Self 44, so much stunning stuff going on here. They went in the studio of Abbey Road and they recorded something that is an obvious competition for Sgt. Pepper's. Really beautiful. 12, The Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. At number 11, I talked about this record for a longer time and gave it more credit earlier this year when there was a box of this record released, which gave some beautiful insights. Nick Drake, 5 Leaves Left. This voice, the voice of Nick Drake, opens a world of melancholy, of sadness. But I think there is still some hope in there, and that makes his voice so invitable, so bearable. Then there's a skillful playing that resembles the qualities of somebody like Mississippi John Hurt. And then he makes songs. Time Has Told Me, Riverman, the cello song, Fruit Tree, Day Is Done. It's of a stunning, stunning beauty. Nick Drake, 5 Leaves Left. Going into the top 10, and honestly, influence-wise, these 10 records have been changing the world. These are all 5 out of 5 stars, so don't get mad if your favorite one is not on number 1, but on number 2, because this is the big competition. And again, you can become mad and just respond, and we'll have a conversation below the video. At number 10, Frank Zappa, Hot Rats. I just love Willie the Pimp, the pound down, 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 and then how Captain Beefheart nails those vocals, and then Zappa just bursts out in madness, and so does Captain Beefheart, and that madness is so liberating. Peaches and Regalia, Son of Mr. Jeans. This is stunning, and you keep putting it on as often as you can because you keep the melodies, they just punch you in the guts, and they keep offering more and more and more. At number 10, Frank Zappa, Hot Rats. At number 9, we couldn't have a top 10 without the Rolling Stones. Let It Bleed. The track list order on this record, this is an original first UK, and I believe all these records don't have the real track list, but the Stones, they found something, a dynamic with blues, a dynamic with soul, a dynamic with, there are even funk influences here. Gimme Shelter, a firehouse of rock and power. And then other songs like Midnight Rambler, the Robert Johnson cover Love in Vain, Let It Bleed. I love that ballad. You Can't Always Get What You Want. That choir of people. Country Honky Tonk Woman. Rolling Stones, Let It Bleed. At number 9. At number 8, the self-titled record by Townes Van Zandt. Opening with For the Sake of the Song, and then Waiting Around to Die, the first song he ever wrote. And that is a miracle. Please look up the lyrics for Waiting Around to Die and tell me the fact that somebody in his late teens picking up his first guitar wrote that as a first song isn't pure magic, and it's unexplainable. The entirety of this record, it's unexplainable. An intimacy, a quality, a songwriting, it knows no equal. At number 8, Townes Van Zandt's self-titled Townes Van Zandt. At number 7, King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson King. One of the biggest leaps forward in the world of progressive rock. Imagine living in 1969, buying this, and then the sound of that opening song, the just incredible guitar and saxophone, the distorted voice. You think you're gonna listen to some hard rock that is way out there. But later on you get melodies that are like medieval, and there's this beautiful English folklore element to it. This record just takes you on a journey. At number 7, King Crimson, The Court of the Crimson King. At number 6, the biggest rock opera in my opinion, The Who, Tommy. I did a video on The Who just a couple of weeks ago, a top 10 video. If you'd like me to elaborate further, check out that video, because I can't make this video too long. So at number 6, The Who, Tommy. Gorgeous rock opera about a deaf, dumb and blind kid. At number at number 5, the Beatles with the White Album. The Beatles going into the studio, sometimes separated from each other, finding their own ways and putting it all together on 2 discs of sheer perfection. I have made some videos about the Beatles, and I actually, the more I do it, the harder I find it to know which one to put on top. But now, at number 6, the Beatles, the White Album. I'm switching my order here around. I'm switching my order around. No, that was number 5. What I just did, number 5. I find this so hard. At number 4, The Doors. This self-titled debut contains songs like Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, The Crystal Ship, 20th Century Fox, the Alabama Song, a Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill cover, the big hit Light My Fire. Then side 2 has Backdoor Man, the Willie Dixon cover, I Looked at You, End of the Night, Take It As It Comes, and The End. Is there a more perfect line of 11 songs out there of dark, haunting, gothic, blues, psychedelic rock? Well, the Doors made something very, very special. At number 4. At number 3, I'm changing it around again. At number 3, the Beatles, Abbey Road. The final record by the Beatles, at least recorded after Let It Be, but released for Let It Be. The Beatles on a level of sheer perfection. I play this all the time. Open with Come Together, Something, Maxwell Silver Hammer. I think that's actually a good song, despite what other people say. Oh Darling, beautiful blues. or Waltz, whatever. Octopus's Garden, I Want You, and then side 2, Here Comes the Sun, Because You Never Give Me Your Money, the entire medley. I mean, those final moments, Golden Slumbers, carried it weight, and the end. Finest moments out there. It just breaks my heart. The lyrics, the way it's written, the way it sounds. At number 3, the Beatles, Abbey Road. At number 2, another Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. When I heard this, I didn't know what was happening. A concept album, so many different types of songs, sounds, quality that I never heard anything like it. I borrowed a CD from my music teacher, and it was just the most astonishing gift. The powerful rocking of that opener, of the title track, and then a little help from my friends. Lucy's in the Sky with Diamonds, Getting Better, Fixing a Hole, The Benefit from Mr. Kite. It just goes on and on and on, and then at the end, A Day in the Life, which I've said it before in this video, but yeah, all of them are top 5. Beatles songs, I think perhaps A Day in the Life. It's so epic, it's so grand. At number 2, not at number 1. Some people think it should be at number 1. I know that. I check out a lot of lists. So what's at number 1? Well, where Sgt. Pepper's changed the sound of music and of studio production, I think there's one band that changed the sound of bands and of how liberating bands could sound and of what you could sing about and how vulnerable you could be and how proud you could be of being in the gutter or whatever, of all your insecurities, and that is the Velvet Underground and Nico. This record is, of all these records here, the one I played the most. Opening with Sunday Morning. Beautiful, gentle song. And I know, production-wise, this is not the best record out there. But it captures something so truly unique. Songwriting on such a bizarre level, with the most inviting melodies and then the most inviting noises even. Lou Reed for solid songwriting, John Cale for adventure, and that combination, I'm Waiting for the Man, that writing, Femme Fatale, Venus in Furs, the beat, the driving force here, Run, 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 All Tomorrow's Parties, beautiful vocal by Nico. The song Heroine by Lou Reed is astonishing. There She Goes, I'll Be Your Mirror, the Black Angels Death Song, and European Sun. It's pure brilliance and pure magic. At number 1, the Velvet Underground and Nico. Now I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave some comments below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.